Austin, welcome to the podcast, guys. I am very, 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 very excited about this episode. Austin, I'm gonna just start by being open with you. You are one of my biggest inspirations in life. He's a high school friend of mine who has been a mentor in the past. He's half the reason that most of the decisions that I've made in my business have occurred. The cookbook exists because of Austin. He has taught me so much and he's been such a valuable friend to me that I'm honored that you're here. Guys, put your listening pants on. This guy is a jackrabbit of value. Like anything he says, just listen. Austin, for those who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just to start, give us some context. Welcome.
Appreciate the kind intro.
It's
you blew me away with that.
He was also one of my first ever customers when I started the business. When I first started my videography business, I made my first $6,000 off Austin, which was just life-changing for me at the time. But honestly, you've been such a big... Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you, man.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Austin Lovell, and over the past few years, I went from wanting to go to university to building businesses straight out of high school, and now I travel the world full-time. Can
you give us a little bit more detail? Because that is the shiny answer, but really what you are is like I don't want to use the word hustler lightly, but you have been the hardest working person I've ever known since the youngest of young ages. What is your...
Right now, I build e-commerce brands and I have a few in a group of brands that I scale. And then I also teach people. Started an education company with my two Aussie best mates last year. Mm-hmm. And now we teach people how to achieve that kind of freedom, travel the world while building an online business. Because online businesses has given me everything. It's given me complete freedom.
So speaking of teaching, Austin, one thing that I want to base this episode around is a lesson that you taught me, which I think I want to share with the audience because it's very important. You taught me the idea of no rep is ever wasted. And it was essentially this idea that I remember at the time I was probably complaining to you about something like, I wish these decisions of the past or this past thing that shaped me to be who I am didn't happen. And then I remember you saying no rep is ever wasted. And it was essentially you saying, hey, for you to get exactly where you are with the skills that you have, the experiences, the negatives, the lessons, all came from you having done the things that you've done, which means all of it has contributed to your ongoing growth, regardless of whether it was positive or negative at the time. Now, the reason I want you on the podcast today is obviously, like I said, I don't know why I said jackrabbit of value.
I've never heard that phrase.
What the is a jackrabbit? But I have you've told your story in the past. There's lots of content of you out there. You're also a great teacher of value. If you've seen any of his YouTube values, he shares all of his insights all the time. I have the unique idea and experience of knowing you from younger, right? And I kind of want to retell your story and ask you questions about your story, but from the idea of this no rep is ever wasted, because the younger 17-year-old jackrabbit, well, I'm going to keep going with that. The Austin that I knew didn't know that those reps were turning you into exactly who you are now, but you were doing them anyway.
I think it's beautiful when we can look back and see all of the steps that got us to where we are. But when you're in the moment, if I rewind back to when I was 17, I didn't have that level of hindsight. I was just, I'm in it. I'm trying to build a business. I'm a guy that's just finished high school or just about to, not going to go to university. I need to figure this out. And so now looking back, I see that, okay, all those little micro steps made me who I was, or at least gave me the opportunities that I was presented with. But in the moment, you just think it's work. You just think it's tough and you don't have that hindsight yet.
Correct. Can we teleport ourselves back to that moment? And we're going to just say start. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your childhood first? What was young Austin like right before I met you?
Young Austin always wanted to do well in school, loved sport, always wanted to win, hated losing, bit of a sore loser, if I'm honest.
I remember this.
Yeah, do you remember?
Yes. I have this particular memory of you in school footy, Austin.
No, I know what you're going to say, bro.
Austin used to play footy with us, and I remember he had a set shot from literally would have been 3 meters out, and he either kicked it out in the full or missed completely. I forget what he did, and I've never seen a tantrum like the one Austin did that day. But I knew I loved him from that moment because his attention to excellence and his deep hunger for it, I didn't understand at the time, but it totally makes sense to me now. Anyways, yes, high achiever in school, couldn't kick goals. Next.
Then I guess as high school went on, I just wanted to be the best at everything. I always wanted to be the top person, the leader, winning the awards every time and just always trying to set the bar really high. Mm-hmm. I think that came from my parents, especially my mum. She just held such high expectations for me in a really positive way. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to, I guess, show her that I could do it. So then going through high school, I was gearing up to go the traditional route, I guess. study engineering, go to university, go for a job. And I was excited by that because that's all I really thought about. But then it quickly changed. It quickly changed towards the end of high school.
Why is it that you wanted to be a high achiever? What you said you got it from your mum, but where did that come from?
I was introduced to competitive sport really early, mainly team sport. And I guess it came from there because the feeling of winning was so good and I hated the feeling of losing. And so then that just translated to, well, if I have to be at school, and I was never against school, but if I'm here in the classroom, I might as well just win this and do my best to try and win it. And that happened for the majority. Then towards the end, like there were some much smarter cookies than me that came along. But I just thought, well, if I'm here, I might as well try and win this.
Tangibly, can you give us an idea for the people who didn't know you what that looked like? Like the first thing that comes to my head is you were the college captain of our school who still kicked ass in your final ATAR. But that was the final ending of school before you went to the business. Even as a kid, you were going for student leadership. You were pushing hard on tests you really didn't care about. Like you were the best Italian student ever that didn't care about Italian type of thing. What did aiming to be the best at things look like during that period of time? What were you going for? What did you like?
Well, in middle school, that was the time where I realized what I wanted to do after school, which was be an engineer. And so from that point, I had motivation. Before it was just, I'm here, might as well do a good job because I got to spend from 8 till 3 p.m. at school anyway. Might as well make the most of it, I guess. But then once I had the goal, I'm like, I want to be an engineer. Now I needed to prove that I could get there. So then every test, every subject, every homework assignment, I wanted to get the marks I needed. And that was just, I had to be the best. I really like the competition because we obviously went to an all-boys school. I think it's elevated there because you don't want other guys to beat you. You want to be the best in the class. And I think that combined with a really amazing sport environment in high school, just a really winning culture. You know, if you lose, you get paid out the day after at school.
It was brutal at school.
You got to win. You got to win. And I think that kind of mindset is amazing because it carries through after. And I noticed that. Now, I still don't like losing. It's just not in sport. It's in business. I don't like competitors coming along. I want to make sure they lose. And so I do everything in my power to always win. And once I had that direction, then it just transferred.
Okay. There are a lot of people in the audience right now who are at that 17 to 20 age bracket. Some of them still are in school. I completely understand what you're saying about the competitive environment because I only wanted to be the best in the class. I only wanted to be the best in the footy team. And yes, I didn't know why, but I know it served me in the long run. One thing that I remember about me, myself, but also you in high school is there was a level of ostracization for the people who didn't quite understand what you were on at the time, which is, I'm going to kick ass because this is what I'm about, right? You want to do it for engineering, but you later didn't use it, yada, yada. What was it like being almost forced to be in an environment? Because now, Austin, you're someone who curates your social outings very carefully. You're careful about what you put into your brain, and you pick your people wisely because it's, you know, your vibe is your tribe. You're shaped by your people, so you try and surround yourself with the best. At school, Austin, we weren't surrounded by people who were happy to see you being awesome. What was that like, dealing with other people around you who weren't striving for the same things? Because I know that led to frustration.
I don't know where it came from, but early on, I'd say 15, 16, I developed this mindset that I just didn't care what they thought in a very positive way. It's just, they don't understand because they're not in my shoes. Like if I make a YouTube unboxing video and people roast me about it at school, I'm like, first of all, my knee-jerk reaction was, oh, shut up. Like, you make a YouTube video.
I used to give you shit about it, even though I was on YouTube getting shit about it myself. But that's how it was. We all just forked it out hard.
Yeah, you couldn't get away with anything.
Was there a muscle that you could, and the reason I mentioned the audience earlier is that they might be going through the same thing now. Was there a muscle that you had to train to get through that? Because I can see it in my head, you copying shit from the boys, posting, you know, shoe cleaning videos and things like that. I related to because I was copying shit myself, but I think I struggled with it a little differently to you. Like your reactions were more visceral, but you kept going, whereas I sort of internalized things and built little enemies in my head. Like, how did you deal with it? And what could you suggest to the people who perhaps right now are doing something different and are copying a little bit of backlash in school?
The first thing I'll preface with is that it does go away. They do stop because they realize you're not going to give up. The fun that they have is when they get at you and then you stop. And they're like, I got you.
Yeah.
You gave up because of me and because of me roasting you. But I kept going. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just a bit of delusion thinking, oh, I could make cool YouTube videos. I might as well keep going. But for anybody who is facing a similar, I guess, challenge, just know that they're not going to do it forever because they're going to know that you don't give up. And it's not fun to keep roasting the kid that just keeps pumping out videos, that keeps rocking up and doing his thing, regardless of what it is. It's like, oh, this is boring. This guy's not giving up.
Yeah. I think my issue was that sometimes my reactions would lead to me having a hissy fit, and then that would be fuel to the fire as well. That's a really good actionable piece of advice. So if we were to skip forward, Austin, essentially through school, you dominated. You did that through hard work. I could see the hours you were putting in. You had a whole lot of extracurricular stuff you were pursuing. Can you break down for us the moment? Because you always talk about the changing of your business to build the lifestyle you have now, which we'll get into. But the decision from engineer prospect to starting a business, can you set the scene for us there?
Started making YouTube videos at 15 with a cheap camera from Costco. I begged mum. I'm like, Mum, please, I want to make unboxing videos for YouTube. So it started there. And I've always loved YouTube. YouTube was my number one. I'd watch Casey Neistat,
Peter McKinnon. That was us.
I'd watch these guys that are making videos and looks really cool and they make you a living from it. And I didn't directly want to be a travel creator, but then there was this soccer trip in year 10 when I was 16, and it was to go to Spain. And so what I did is I brought the camera and I started doing vlogs while I was over there. Now, at the time, they were not vlogs. I was not talking to the camera. Barely in these like 8-minute, 9-minute episodes, it's just B-roll montages. Like there was no talking.
You were cinematic from very young. That's the one thing we used to disagree on, because I was the hooligan, like actually vlogging, and yours were just beautiful, beautiful videos. And
well, I'd go back and I'd do it like yours, in all honesty, because it's much better to watch back and see yourself talking to the camera.
Correct.
So then when I started doing that, I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something here. And then throughout the last remaining years of high school, there was a few opportunities that presented itself. There was to make the rowing video when I was in year 11.
I remember that. Yep.
And that wasn't a paid job, but after that, there was a few paid opportunities with video editing and making content.
For the school.
I
remember when you put out that rowing video, it was the coolest thing. Because at the time, what was that? We were in 2017, 2018, and videography was just becoming a thing that people did as a career, and your skills were already so much higher than everybody else's. Not saying you'd be a better videographer now than you were back then, but when that video came out and they played it at the assembly, everyone was like, whoa, CBC looks awesome. But yeah, I do remember you being like this high achieving student that was also walking around after school with a camera, hustling out videos. It is interesting.
That's where it came from. I made those videos, got a little bit of cash, and I don't know, I think you have to go through certain experiences to just understand now. So then when I was making the videos and got my first bit of cash, I'd never put 2 and 2 together. Like obviously you can make money making videos, but it didn't click until I actually got paid. And I was like, I could do this.
Yeah, there's something here.
And so I still stayed committed to engineering, but now I'm in high school. Camera was with me every single day.
That's correct.
I'd always bring it with me. It's in my locker. It's downstairs. Like I'd always be filming something.
Correct.
Hustling in that way. And then that just opened my eyes to the idea that maybe I could make money doing something different. And nothing against university, but maybe I didn't have to. Maybe I could just keep making videos, or maybe I could build something different. Gave me a bit of confidence, gave me some quick wins. I was like, maybe I should do this.
And you know, another thing that you probably don't realize until hindsight either is that skill that you had now learned, you were then providing to the school, which actually made you a more valuable student. Like the biggest memory I have of you is your hand was in every pot of year 12. You were building these, philanthropy initiatives, social clubs, running clubs. You were, again, like I've said a million times, kicking ass with your grades. But then like you were also valuable to the teachers. You had connections with the teachers and the higher ups and the decision makers and the people paying bills. You were that student who was like keyed into the whole school, but it was because of the extra reps you were doing to actually help. Like that free rowing video. Yes, you didn't make money off it at the start, but the generations and time periods that followed, which is you carving out now a small job at this high school, you became this. Like people would come to you for help with your with their grades and their work. People would come to you advice with this, and that. And I don't know if you maybe realized it at the time, but those extra reps were giving you a place of power, I guess, like a positive thing.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And first of all, I love leading people. And so when the opportunity, I knew from the first day, first assembly that I sat down in high school. And the college captain, I still remember him, Simon Cousins, he came up onto the stage in it was purple blazer at the time. They hadn't got their white ones yet. And he started talking. And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even I want to do that, is I'll be up there. And that's going to be me.
You said that since like literally the age of 12.
And so I
will
decided.
Be college captain.
I decided. And so then when I finally had the opportunity to do it and have like a team that I could work with, all of my leaders and really good mates as well, I just enjoyed that so much. And I wanted to be involved because I'd seen captains come before that had tried certain things, but then look, year 12's busy. You've got work to do, you've got social lives, you've got sport, you've got jobs, everything's coming at you. And I saw how they'd come into the year wanting to do all these things, but then life takes over and I get that. And so I knew for me, okay, I can handle it. I can handle the extra workload. So I'm going to do everything I can to make this year the best year. And not just for me, but for everyone else, because everyone looks forward to that final year. Like those are the glory days. You look back, you're like, those are the good old days. I got to see my best mates every day in class. And so I really wanted to make it the best, not just for me, but for everyone. And I knew I didn't want to look back and be like, damn, I wish I did more. I wish I did more. And there were so many things that we tried to do that didn't end up eventuating, but that's okay because I felt like we all gave it everything.
Oh, the work was seen. Like we all knew, like I'm telling you, that probably one of the best college captains in the history of the time that I was there. Well, actually the best. I only said probably because I don't know what the college captains are now, but the work you were putting in was nuts, which leads me to my next question, Austin. Let's just go to the fact that you've now decided that there's an avenue for this videography stuff. You've been rewarded by money. There's now an element of being valued by other people, which is also making you more useful and therefore creating that positive loop. You finish school, and the next thing that I remember is that Austin disappears, right? We were still in touch. We were accountability partners. We were making sure each other was meditating at the time. Like you were my earliest onset, like, let's go and hustle outside of school. I remember telling you about my YouTube progress. We'd go and meet at a cafe and write down what we were working on in the week. But then you just put your head down and you started the first business. Can you tell us what that was and what that first 6 to 9 months looked like before you moved out of home? Because that was when all of us were partying and happy. Like, yes, I pride myself on my hard work ethic from young, but I spent 2019 around. That's the truth. I worked hard. I put things out, but I was around. You straight out of school, it's like year 12 was happening all over again and you were doubling down on the hustle. Talk to me about that part, because you never tell that story.
I got straight into it because I didn't see an alternative. I never came into the social circles or the parties or all that. I got invited to people's 18ths and stuff like that. But in all honesty, I don't think I was the best party goer. Like, you're not really someone, I would sit there, have chats, be pretty calm, wouldn't drink. And so I guess I'm not the most fun person to have at those parties.
In that context.
In that context. So yeah, when it came to, okay, school's done. That chapter is finished and now you're on your own. Partly there was this big sense of urgency because I really wanted to move out of home. I don't know what it was. I just wanted to make something of myself. And so I knew I've been presented with a clean slate. No more timetables, no more projects. I can just work every day. And I think the beautiful thing when you're young is that your parents, hopefully, will let you stay at home for a little bit longer without charging you rent or board.
Shout out to this garage. I mean, yeah. Thank God for them. Legit.
So
honestly.
It started like that. And I was just in my bedroom at my same desk that I used to do homework a few months prior, but this time trying to build an online business. And so my first ever business was, I was still a videographer. And so I was essentially a freelancer. I gave it a fancy name. Thinking back now, it was called Offset.
But I've still got one of your jumpers, by the way. I will give it to you as a gift one day. I'm holding on to it.
It's Offset, but it was OPHSET. Fancy. And I thought, you know what? I'm different. I'm edgy like that. So I'm going to change the name of it and the letters used. So it started as Offset. Offset was a fancy label for me walking around with a camera and still editing everything myself. And so the first chunk of 2019, or almost all of it, was me being a freelance videographer under the label of Offset, wearing a shirt that has that big white O on it. But really it was just me making real estate videos, making promo videos for small businesses. Anyone that said they will give me money to make a video, I was like, absolutely, let's go and do it. And so that was the first chunk. Grab a camera, go from making unboxing videos on YouTube to maybe making some business videos and making some money.
It's interesting. I've talked about this on the podcast before, the idea that timing and luck is a massive part of someone's success. I know that there is an element to it for achieving said success, but I don't like to subscribe to that as a prerequisite. But what do you think about the idea that, because let's say, for example, my first or the beginnings of my business was shooting under your business and then starting my own and then building that up into what it is today, right? I feel like I joined the videography party probably 2-3 years into it actually being a hot topic of, oh my God, you can get paid for videos. Whereas you were doing it during a time where the market was still figuring out what the online Facebook ad is, right? What influenced the timing and the choice other than just the fact that I got paid for it once? Why don't I just start a business? There had to be a little bit more to it for you. Were you studying anything? Had you seen positive examples? Were you searching those examples out? A lot of people wait to see the success story fall in their laps so that they feel motivated to jump. But you were in 2019 in Adelaide choosing to make videos for Mercedes at the time, right? That was a new market at the time. What led to that? What was the thoughts?
There was definitely a pivot between I'm just going to make videos as a videographer and trying to build an agency. And so 2019, I was in this whole mindset of, yes, I'm on the tools right now making video content, but I don't want to be on them forever. I want to build an agency where we can have videographers and editors and I can be the operator. I can be the owner. That was always the goal. And that goal came from a guy named Iman in 2018. I was scrolling Instagram. This was like one of those pivotal moments that you look back on and everything changed because I saw an ad after getting off the bus, lay on my bed, you hop on Instagram after school, as you do, scrolling through and see an ad. And this guy's 18. He's making $40,000 a month running an agency. And that snap, I was like, what? And I was like, nah, you got to be kidding me. So then I looked into it more, did my research, watched his YouTube videos, webinars, all this, ended up buying his course. And that was all about building an agency. And so at the start in 2019, it was, okay, I've made some money with the camera myself, but 2019, let's try and build an agency. I really like this. I want to be making 30, 40K a month as an 18, 19-year-old. That sounds cool. And so then that's what it became. It was a means to an end, me on the camera. It was, I'm going to do this so that I can hire people, contractors, editors to take over. And then I can become an agency owner because I saw that that was the goal. This guy's doing it. I can do it too. So a positive role model online that was the same age and was doing incredible things, making 30 to 40,000 a month without going to university. And I was like, okay, that's all that I need to try and give this a crack myself. If he can do it, I can definitely give it a crack. And even if I could just make 5,000 a month from doing this, even a sliver of what he was doing on the other side of the world, that's all that I need.
And you're saying, for example, in that situation, like, you know, Iman Gadzhi is like, he is the GOAT now, like the giant weapon master that's far bigger than what he was when he was running the ads. But maybe one of the tangible pieces of advice for the people listening is, at this point in time, particularly for starting online business, there is so much proof out there and so many, not just success stories that you can take inspiration and lessons from, but accessible ones where, you know, try and buy the same course from Iman now, good luck. I mean, obviously he does sell, you know, his own educations, but back then when you were doing it, when he was starting his business, or at least was in the early stages, you had access to someone who had that initial proof where there wasn't much out there, right? So maybe a good thing to remind the audience is that right now there are more people doing it than ever, and there are more signs that you can make the jump because it's actually accessible, whereas you did it back in a time where it wasn't as accessible. Is that right?
Yeah. It definitely felt different back then. And I think one of the excuses that a lot of people make when they're starting is that they don't have confidence in themselves that they're going to get the results. At the beginning, like if we think back 5-6 years, that's fair enough because there's no one out there that can prove that it can be done. So my hat goes off to the people that were early days. They just made it work.
Built the industry.
Yeah, they made it. They couldn't Google how to start a dropshipping store. They couldn't Google how to build an agency as an 18-year-old. No one had done it yet. And if they had, they weren't talking about it. And so now I think we're in an amazing point where you can go online and you can get inspired and motivated by these people that may be younger or older than you that are doing what you want to be doing.
It's a very privileged place. I guess the, you know, devil's avocado in that situation is Devil's advocate. Sorry, avocado. Love avocados. Guacamole. Lime juice. Salt. What am I saying? One of the benefits to being the innovator at the very start is that you can lead the industry because you're first. But I might have learned this from you, or I might have learned this from someone else, that you're either the first or the best or both. And I don't think for someone starting, it actually matters whether you're one or the other. It just matters that you do the thing. And what I'm gathering is during these early stages for you, doing the thing looked like searching out information and education. I remember you telling me how much of your money you've actually spent on programs and courses. We might be skipping forward a little bit in the story, but can you tell me about that? Because I know that like as an 18-year-old, spending $4,000 on a program was a lot of money to me back then, right? And I've bought videography courses and they've been massive for me, right? But I remember you telling me this at like 19, where I'm still working at Zembreros, rolling burritos for $23 an hour. I'm like, how the does he have $4,000 to spend, even though I had more than $4,000 in savings? But I didn't realize at the time that $4,000 that you spend, Austin, is worth the tripling or quadrupling of your income, and therefore it's cheap. How did you get into that let's buy education, especially coming from such a good one at school where you think, oh, I'm sorted now. I just got my ATAR. That's my education for a little bit, right? You jumped into more. Talk about that.
It's because I saw these people that had got the great results, and I like the idea that we can learn from what they've done. I don't want to make the same mistakes. I'm impatient and I want to get to the result faster. So if we've got some guy or girl coming in front of me and saying that if you pay X amount, I will help you accelerate your journey, I'm all in. Let's do it. And I think there's this big perception when you buy online programs, and I can say this now actually being on both sides, being the student and being the provider, is that people think when they don't deliver the said result, or they say, I'm going to help you grow an agency. And they're like, well, they didn't get me to 10K a month. It's like they still got you started, and you've learned so many incredible skills that you'll carry through forever.
No rep is ever wasted.
No rep is wasted.
Literally. And it's sorry to interrupt, but that is like the point of this podcast. Like it was never a waste of resources if it got you even a quarter of the way further forward towards that skill. Jeez. I
bought programs that said, we're going to make you 6 figures with videography. And at the point in time, I didn't make 6 figures, but I got a few clients. And then there was agency courses that are like, I'm going to help you scale to 10K a month. Didn't get me to 10K a month, maybe got me to 5K or 6K, but I learned everything I need to do to go to the next level.
Correct.
And so
would you take them back? No, you wouldn't.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Absolutely not. Every single course that I purchased, every single bit of coaching, no matter how ridiculous for me at the time. There was one point where there was this course I really wanted. Check the bank account, don't have enough. Okay, let's get a loan. So I got a loan for it and bought it. And I'm like, I'm going all in. Let's make this work. And if it doesn't, again, I was living out of home. I had bills to pay, which was weird for me as a 19-year-old, like bills. And I was like, I'm going to do this. It's 12 grand. Let's spend it. Let's go for it. What's the worst that could happen? I moved back home. That's okay. My parents would welcome me back, thankfully.
Yeah.
And so I did it. And yes, from that, I have learned so many things that I would say over a period of the past 4 years have made me much more than that investment. And maybe you don't realize the investment straight away, but the idea that you're educating yourself and you're getting incredibly valuable skills is worth the money. It's worth the investment. And people look at investing advice. They've got 10K in the bank. They're like, how do I invest this, to get it to a huge level? And the philosophy I adopted was, I want to increase my income so then down the track I can do investing. So what does that mean in the start? It means spending money on getting better, spending money on leveling up yourself, because 10K in the bank is not going to do much in the grand scheme of things. You need to invest in yourself. Get the courses, the coaching, go and do that certificate, do things that are going to make you better so your earning potential increases. So that was the mentality I adopted. I got clients paying me, where can I spend this money so that my clients will pay me more? Where can I spend this money so I can get 10 more clients next month? It was always that mentality, always. And so I've never called a course a scam. There have been times where they have significantly under-delivered, like they promised something, I put in the work, didn't get the result. But again, I learned things from these programs.
Austin, this is exactly why, and we're going to get into the naysayers down the line once we get to that part of the business story. This is exactly why I think you're doing exactly the thing that you're due for, and why I trust you in that pursuit, because there are so many times out there, and social media is great. We're just talking about how accessible information is now. All of the people that you want to be like, or all of the people who are successful in the area of pursuit that you guys want, more than likely, most of the time, they're all saying the same thing, right? Why is that? It's because they've done it and it works, right? They're not saying these different things. They're saying the things that work because it is the truth, right? And part of me, as I was listening to you, I was like, holy this sounds like a sales pitch for him selling a course. And then I was like, wait a second. He's literally just telling the truth, which is, you know, it would make so much for me to trust you as someone to teach me a skill that I need, right? And I'm trying to speak almost in your customer's shoes, right? It would make so much more to listen to someone who's done the thing. And I don't just mean done the thing in terms of achieving the result. I mean done the thing in terms of investing money that he might not have at the time to buy those skills. So I'm thinking, you know, I remember when I was first selling my videography customers, they'll be like, well, what's it going to cost me to do this? And then I would have, even in my head at least, well, what's it going to cost you not to do this? Which is like that classic sales, like, you know, if you don't buy it, you'll be in a worse position, which is kind of what I just gathered from what you said. But the reality is you were also the 19-year-old spending $12K you didn't have on courses to get the skill, to do the thing so that you can be trusted to teach the thing. Sorry, I'm getting passionate because we will get to the naysayers, but I do really respect that. And I guess the tangible tip there for the audience is if there's a gap between the skills required to get to where you want to go and the skills you currently have, the amount of money that bridges you between the gap of skill and the gaining of the skill is worth every penny. And yes, there is no silver bullets, which Austin has so reminded us, you know, e.g. the 2 courses he bought that didn't jump him straight to 6 figures. But the money is never not well spent, even if it's absolute dog shit. I know I can, so maybe I can rephrase that. Even if it doesn't serve directly to the point, it's still you training that muscle of, I'm worth this much. How can I make myself worth more? Am I saying that correctly? Yeah.
Every single program moves you one step in the right direction. And even the just principle of spending money that you have earned and saved and investing in learning is a muscle that you build.
Yep.
Like now I spend a lot more on that than I used to. And it was incredibly uncomfortable at the beginning. It's like all the money in my bank account was going into a course. And of course, you think, is this going to work? Is this all a big scam? I'm actually going to get the result. Am I going to get anything from this? But then you do it, and you're like, okay, I've learned stuff. I'm getting better. I'm progressing. I think the scariest thing for everyone starting out is even just buying that first course. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just the idea of you spending your money on learning. People are going to spend money on random things. Like I've bought some pretty silly things. So let's just invest in us first. So then my goal is invest in us. We get better. We make more. Then we can provide for the people around us and we can buy cool things and travel the world. And so it all starts with making a commitment to get better yourself. The version of me finishing high school did not have the skills, experience, or capacity to do what I do now. I had to go through those learnings. And the way I think about it is just like with a book. Someone has gone through their whole life and they've learned all these things, and you can spend money to learn those things in a very condensed fashion. I look at courses the same way. And even if that gets you a little bit further along, a little bit, it was worth the investment.
And that totally lines up because I remember when we were having those meetings in 2019 where you were reading a book every week or something like that. And you know, a lot of the books I have were recommendations from you, right? Books that I've read. A key point you made there is there's a difference between, you know, yes, you can buy that information. Yes, we are so privileged to have these books, which are condensed little nuggets of wisdom. But reading about the thing, thinking about the thing, strategizing about the thing, planning to do the thing are not doing the thing. And I'm only saying that because now I want to jump into the next stage, which is you've had some initial success in the videography business. And now you're the 19-year-old who's now moved into a city apartment to pay bills and take that next level of lifestyle on. You've now got a plan. You've now got the right mindset. You've taken in as much wisdom as possible. And now it's time to practice. Can you talk to us? Because I've never heard you talk about this part. It's always the part after you move out of your apartment and go overseas. Talk to us about 19-year-old Austin alone in a city apartment, just busting out videos. This is when I started working for you. What was that life? What did the doing look like? And what were the main lessons that Austin had to actually get hit in the face to figure out other than buy? Because you can buy I've bought a lot of stuff myself for my own learning. But again, there have been so many hard knocks which have taught me far more, right? Talk to me about that way of life and what that looked like for you.
I wanted to leave home so that I could be in my own space. Now, if we're going to be 100% honest, there'd be times where my mum would come into my room and say, Austin, can you help me out with some chores? Can you put up the washing? Can you take the dogs for a walk? And it got to the point where I'm like, Mum, I'm trying to build a business here. Like, I want to work. And she's like, oh no, just take a second. And so moving out was the first time where I could sit for hours in silence. No one would ask me for anything. That's when I adopted the do not disturb thing on my phone. It was always on. I'm like, I have peace. And so
your phone now is optimally set to do not. You've actually made an agreement with Apple. Internal system settings do not disturb. Anyway, sorry, continue.
So that was the first time where I could completely focus. And so there was two parts to it. I now have the mental capacity to just completely focus on whatever I wanted to do. I'm in my own space in the city, away from family. I'll still see them. I'm not isolated from the world, but I've got my space. The second part was, and I learned this from Iman early on, and there's lots of people that say it now as well, is that when you make a commitment, say to an apartment, you now have to pay for that thing. If you get a car, you have to pay for that thing. If you make these financial commitments, you have to follow through. You can't just say, oh, sorry, actually, I can't pay for the apartment this week. No, the landlord will kick you out. You have an obligation. You made a commitment, you signed the dotted line. And so it puts you under pressure to level up and increase income so that you can cover those things without feeling stressed. And so I think for me, if I never left home, I never would have had the urgency to grow a business, to level up, to make money, because there was no point. Like I started getting charged board, but it wasn't the same as living in an apartment. You know, I had to pay more. And so I had to come up with a way to make this money and make it not stressful and build a business that could give me those things. And so I had full clarity and focus. I was sitting in my apartment at my desk that I loved. I think about that desk often. It was beautiful. I made it from IKEA. You got the desktop, you got the standing legs.
Yep.
So good. And then
I can see the setup in my head.
Oh, it's amazing. We had that. And then we had the push of like, I need to make money so I can pay for this. And then I want to make money so I can go to the next apartment that I was looking at. That was always the goal. And so for me, I think there's two life hacks any young person can have. The first one is leaving home. The second one is leaving the country or the city that they're in. Those two things force you to level up in a way that you just can't imagine. You have to be better because now you're out of home. You've got lots of financial responsibilities. You've got to pull through. Your back's up against the wall. You have to make it work. I love that mentality of forcing yourself to be the best. Just like the night before a test, you cram. You cram. Even the morning of, I've got to get in this information. I've got to get this done. I've got the project I've got to finish. Back up against the wall. You always make it work. Even if you don't get the best grade, you got it done. And so I want to create that. And that's what I did in the apartment because it would have been very easy for me to start slacking off.
So I think one of the tangible things that I gathered from that, also very good, both of those were tangible, but one of the things I'm thinking, how would I apply that same advice to a 17-year-old who doesn't have enough money to start to move out, or a 30-year-old or a 24-year-old? And I think the main thing that I'm getting from you there is assume risk as far as your bandwidth and capacity can take at that given time.
I think we as humans get it done when we have to. You think about all the times in your life where you've had to get it done. You've had to. You're back against the wall. The time's ticking. There's no other option. And I think humans, we always get it done in those situations. We force ourselves to. And so then you think, how can I apply that same thinking to growing a business or reaching my goals? You just make it no other option. You create a commitment to your friends, to your family members. You say, I'm going to get this done by this date. And if I don't, here is a punishment. You create these micro little challenges that you have to stand up and get it done. And so I think when you're 17, 18, yes, you can't go and say, I'm going to get the car that I can't afford, or I'm going to go to the apartment that I can't afford. Like when I say can't afford, you're like, it's a stretch.
Yeah,
you know you're going to have to put in some work, but you know you could get there. You just got to push a bit more. I like that kind of stretch. It's not like I went from living at home to living in a mansion. It wasn't some unrealistic jump, but it was definitely a push to be able to constantly afford that. And I think that kind of stress is a good stress. Forces you to grow. Feel like it ages you much more quickly and you sort of become an adult a lot faster because you put that pressure on yourself. But
speaking of pushes and stretches, going back to that period of time now where you've taken on that risk, you're now growing your business because there's actually more responsibility that's come with that risk. Let's talk about personal Austin, because there was a lot of pushing and stretching there too, in the sense of one thing I can relate to your exact story is that when I inevitably started the business, let's say a year and a half after you did, as soon as I started taking it seriously and realizing, you know, because I know when everyone starts a business, or at least for me, when I first started it and I was making $4,000 a month, I was like, I'm rich. I don't work for anyone. I work for me. I'm the CEO. I make $4,000 a month. That's more than the average job. And then you realize it's just not like that, right? And you grow up a tad. When I started taking it seriously and making a lot more money, but because I had to, because I realized that's required, right? I spent a lot of my time sitting, a lot of time sedentary, a lot of time in front of a screen doing just obnoxious hours, which I still do now, but I've found better systems for where I'm going with this question. Austin's gone from playing social sport, being a high achiever, which means, you know, if he wants to go run long distances or attempt physical endeavors, you had a pretty active lifestyle. Don't take this the wrong way, because I can say it because it actually happened to me. I gained a lot of weight, and looking at you now, back then you gained a lot of weight yourself, right? How does 19/20/ now kind of 21-year-old Austin, living by himself, away from his parents, away from, you know, obviously my career is cooking, but for you, nutrition would have been something you had to teach yourself. I know you like to order your food now, but we're going to pretend you don't for the audience's sake. What were the lessons learned and the struggles that age Austin went through when, okay, well, you've stretched yourself to earn more money and build a good business, but now you're getting fat and your brain hurts because you're not doing all of the right things for your health. What was that story? Because we've talked about this before.
I definitely did gain some weight. I'm not going to refute that. We can look back at old photos of me. I was a big boy.
Not that it's so negative that you gain weight, but I know that with the way you've optimized your health now and the way you care about it and the things that you do to maintain that health while still growing and stretching your business, back then those things didn't exist yet because the reps weren't done, right? Let's see what reps weren't wasted in that regard.
I had this very strong mindset in the early days that it's all or nothing. You pick one thing, you go all in. And so at the time I said, I'm going all in on business, everything. So friendships went on hold, family relationships, sort of put them on hold so I could focus more on work. My health got put on hold. And so what that meant for me is that every decision in my life is all about me being able to spend more time at my laptop and get more stuff done. And so I could have been healthier. I could have made better health decisions. I came from a family where health decisions were like promoted to eat well, eat good, nutritious food, take care of yourself, move, be active, all those things. But I said, look, for this period of time, I'm just going to do everything with work. That's it. If I have to eat badly, I eat badly because I don't care. And I think it's pretty opposite advice to what a lot of people say. And I'm not telling you to go and binge eat or make bad health decisions, but it's just everything in my life took a back seat because all I cared about was work. And I'm so grateful that my family was supportive of that. They didn't think I was trying to get rid of them. I'm so grateful that my girlfriend at the time was accepting of that and knew that I'm going all in on this. This is all I care about. I'm grateful that I had those people.
So I've heard you talk about the idea of there's seasons in life and there's periods of time where you adopt something to extremes, which I've very much subscribed to. If you want to, you know, I understand the positive message is if you want to run a better business and you want to perform optimally, then you should really look after your health. Well, there are periods of time where, like what you're saying, the season actually just requires you to say, everything, I need to go for it. And that's when those negative health ramifications came, but you also had the outsized return on the business, which now allows you to now eat steak and fast properly, stay hydrated, have the time to even think about doing the right thing for your health. What were the initial lessons that you learned during that period of time? Because I know now, like me, I'm dropping weight again. Like it goes through seasons. The busier I am, the more I sit, the less I train, right? But I really value it now. So I'm slowly in a position, Austin, where it's a non-negotiable regardless. I actually don't care what season it is. There are things now in my brain that have really helped me with my life where I just, sorry, no, it's not getting skipped today. I don't care I'll find a way, even if I have to train at 2 a.m. Non-negotiable. For you at that period of time, what were the methods of coping with the ramifications of said extremes?
There was this great book I read when I was 19. It's about Steve Jobs. And it was about how teams at Apple would go to him with these ideas and they would be scared. They'd be like, oh, I don't know what Steve's going to say, all these things. They'd walk in and Steve would hit it with the metaphorical simple stick. He'd say, this is not as simple as it can be. This is too complicated. There's too many extra things. Boil it down to the simplest form. And so when I read that, I started looking at my life and I thought, I want to grow a business. Okay, well, the simplest thing to do, irrespective of trying to biohack and optimize and have an incredible morning routine, is just work more. Yeah. Just sit at the computer. Stop trying to, I guess, mess around and, dance around the point. Let's just put the hours in. Yeah. And so once I had that, yes, I put on weight. Yes, maybe my social life just completely fell out the window, but it really wasn't there to begin with. And so I said, I need to simplify this. And I think when you're starting, you overcomplicate it in your mind. It's really simple to build a business. You just do it. Nothing else. That's
Do
it.
all the boring things that you think you, and I like the wording you just used there was, I didn't dance around it. Like the dancing, you make noise like, oh, I'm getting ready to work. It's this thing that helps me work. And I know I'm guilty of that. I've done it myself. But then when you actually rip that out and you're like, okay, well, what does actually doing the thing look like? It's the boring thing that you're avoiding, which is just literally just that. Okay. All right.
And I will add, I've been on both sides. I've been on the, let's have an ultra optimized morning routine that goes for like an hour, hour and a half. I'm going to meditate, journal, read my affirmations in the mirror. I'm going to manifest my dream life, go to the gym, all those things. I've been on that side and swore by it. Like that's what I need. And I've been on the complete opposite side where I would wake up, just so all of you know this, I'm not perfect. I would wake up, go on Instagram for the first 30 minutes of the day, maybe watch a couple of YouTube videos, some soccer highlights, because I love watching those, and then start work. I've been on both, the complete opposite sides. And the number one thing is that you just do the work. It doesn't matter what you do in the morning. Maybe it makes you feel better and maybe that's important to you. And this is nothing against morning routines or eating well or meditating or journaling. I've tried those things. I love them. It's just not for me at this point in time. I just want to get up and I want to work. That's all I want to do.
Okay. This is an interesting question that I think will help me, but also help the audience in general, because I've been on both sides myself. Now I've kind of found what works for me. And like you said before, not one size fits all. Or you didn't say that, but you mentioned something about shoes. So anyways, how do you delineate and figure out what seasons go where? Because like I said, I've been on both sides where, it is grind season. No one talk to me. I don't care what I need to do. I don't care what I need to do to get there. I just need to get there. So get the work done. Or, hey, I'm really not happy with my body. I'm willing to slow the business down just a tad so that I'm not hating myself, like absolutely hating myself. So the seasons, I can figure it out by feel, but for the people who don't know what season they should be in, how do they actually discover, okay, I should really cut this shit out, just get to work, or I should really slow down the work and look after myself? How do you figure out what the seasons are?
It's a feeling thing for me now. And what I feel when I reflect on everything, I think the best way to do it, sit in a room with no input, put your phone on silent, just sit there and be like, what do I need right now? What do I want in my life? What am I dissatisfied with? Do I feel completely unhealthy and I'm making terrible decisions for my health? Or do I feel like I just need to work? Or do I need to travel and take a break from everything? You will know what you need to do. It's deep down there somewhere. And I think a lot of people distract themselves with talk, with music, with podcasts, with all these external sources, and they never listen to themselves. And I think it's such a crime.
So what did 2020 Austin say to himself in the mirror when he couldn't run even a quarter of the distance he could run now? Like, I'm talking egghead Austin, like the Austin that me and you we'd just make jokes all the time. What did you say to yourself in the mirror then? Because there was an outright respect for the work you were putting in, but then we also know that you've made changes since then to not be the same dude with the same lifestyle. What did you say then?
I said, let's just keep it simple. Let's just keep it simple. So the easiest way to, I guess, get in better shape, one of the ways is just to eat less. And so regardless of trying to eat better, I just ate less. And that was it. And then the next step was, okay, well, I'm eating less. Maybe I can move a little bit more. That's it. Very simple. I'm not going to track my macros. I'm not going to get a personal trainer. I'm not going to commit to some ridiculous health routine that I can't keep up. I'm just going to eat a bit less and move a bit more. And so I just kept it simple. Very, very simple. The same with work. If I want to grow the business, I just need to work more or better. You get better at it. But that was it.
I like that. Okay. So health navigated in the long run, business growing, things are going well. Now at this stage, I'm now at CEO land, 4, 5, 6 grand a month. I think I'm a animal. And I remember telling you, like, look at the jewelry I just bought. Look at the shit do you remember? There was one time I dropped you off your camera gear after a shoot and I was like, bro, I don't know, man, if I can take on your shoot next week. I'm so busy, bro. And I was like telling you the things I was buying. I'm like the invoices I was sending. And little did I know at the time that you were running the equivalent of the same business I have now 4 years later, if not bigger. Right? And I'm sitting there telling you about my 4 grand invoices. You had reached a level of success that to me, I personally have not seen done personally here in Adelaide with the people that I know in my close network, right? At the age of 21. Sure. Let's call it 21, 20 years old. Yep. You then go from Apple's system of do not disturb in life general to what's the next stage of do not disturb / growing out these dreams of yours, right? Business is growing. You've reached a material success. You've also gained a little bit of financial freedom at the time. Sorry if seems like I'm explaining your life to you. This is for the audience who doesn't know Austin. You then made the choice to change your business around. And this is before the program, which we'll get to. You're now running a really good agency, or at least an agency that's good enough at the time, and you decide to go to e-com. Talk to us about that and why.
I started with agency because it was the first thing I saw. Now, I'd tried dropshipping stores. When I was 17, there was a really good example on the school holidays between year 11 and year 12. I was sitting, I remember, in the hub in Adelaide Uni downstairs, and I remember the desk I was sitting on, and I found this video about making 1,000 a day with dropshipping. I was like, oh, you can do that? This was before I saw agency. I was still making videos, but I saw dropshipping. And so I gave it a crack. And what I ended up doing was wasting $100, but getting 6 sales. I was like, oh my goodness. A guy with no experience can sell women's bracelets with Twitter ads or Twitter ad spots. It's not even ads. And I don't know, then I stopped and then obviously focused on school again. And so I'd always had this thing with ecom. It was always lingering in the background. It was that thing I was like, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. So as I was growing the agency, this is 95% of my time. Grow the agency, get more clients, systems, team, all that kind of stuff. But I looked at my lifestyle and I was like, I don't want the agency lifestyle. And for one reason or another, I couldn't get it to the point where I could really detach and just enjoy and be a business owner. I just didn't get to that point. But when I started experimenting with ecom again, it was mainly because I was making video ads for ecom brands and I was seeing the results that they got and how these founders were so chill. They're like, getting these great results. I was looking at their profit numbers. I was like, this is nuts. You're doing this. And so then I said, look, I did drop shipping before. Let's give it another crack. But because I make video ads for ecom brands, how about I do some video ads for me on the side? Let's see if I can get it to work. Started doing that. Very little time investment. I messed up a bunch of stores. I think I had 5 or 6 failed stores. And over the space of that, maybe 12 or 13 products I tested until I found one that had promise. And I was like, okay. And then it all came down to a pivotal point. I was speaking with one of my mentors and I'd spoken with him maybe 12, 13 times by that point, and we'd do it every month or so. So I've been working with him for a while, and we'd always start our meetings by him asking how the business is going. And he knew there was 2. There was the ecom brand and there was the agency. Starts with the agency. How's the agency going? I said, yeah, it's going well. I'm working every day on it. He's like, what's the revenue at? And I said, oh, it's like at 20K for the month. And he's like, okay, profit. And then I said the number. And he's like, how much time is it taking you? I said, I'm literally here all day, every day in Think Lab in Adelaide working on this agency. That's literally all I do. Yes. And he's like, okay, well, how are the brands going? And I was like, yeah, pretty well. I had to pull up the results. I hadn't really looked at it. And it was like 35K for the month so far. And he's like, okay, how much profit? And it was less because ecom has lower margins. But he's like, how much time do you spend on this?
Oh.
I was like, 40 minutes this week. I literally touched the Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And he's like, bro, he didn't say it like that.
Yeah.
So he was like, you know what you need to do.
Yeah.
And the example that he gave me is that if you're Tiger Woods, you need to be playing golf. Right now, or at that point in time, I was Tiger Woods. Look, he's an athlete. I'm sure he could be really good at basketball. I'm sure if he put his mind to it, he could play other sports. But I think he was born to play golf.
Yeah.
He was born to dominate in golf.
Yeah.
And so he said, right now, if you picture yourself as Tiger Woods, which I thought was a huge compliment, and he's like, you're trying to play basketball right now. You could make it work. You're an athlete, but let's get you playing golf.
Yeah.
And so for me, my golf was ecom. And so at that point, I was like, something just clicked. You know, people say something for the 10th, 11th, 12th time, and then it just clicks. I was like, okay. And then that was around the same time that I decided to move overseas as well. And I thought, let's go all in. Why not? I'm already moving overseas. Let's ditch the business that is giving me the lifestyle. And let's go all in on ecom. And that was the best decision I made.
And the reason you could do that move and that next jump in lifestyle was because of the change in business, which is, Austin, me and you talk a lot more about this sort of stuff privately, but like this is the exact crossroad I'm on right now, jumping between agency land and the next online business land. And I've had a little bit of promise, but I do relate to the athlete can be good at any sport, but what's the one that's going to fit him the best in the life he wants to build? I'm just trying to bring this because I relate to that a lot, right? I'm running around like a headless chook for the agency to keep the lights on, but then I'm also like, notoriouslyhungry.com, everybody go buy the cookbook. Anyways, sorry, that turned right into a plug. I'm trying to break it down for the business owner that's listening right now that's in between things, because there might be a lot of listeners right now who are still learning the first skill or the first business model or the first system, which is actually making them their first 20 to 30 grand a month, right? And then they're hearing you say like, bro, I haven't even made it to 20, 30K a month and you're switching models. Can you kind of highlight to them exactly, yes, you've said to you, you've just made it clear, my talents were more suited to this. I enjoy it more. It's also requiring less effort, but translated to a non-business person that might be listening or someone who's less experienced, the model was a better model for like, how do they know that they're meant to go to the next thing? And should they even be thinking about that if they haven't done the first thing properly?
Agree. It's a really good question. And I think there's this thing called shiny object syndrome, where you bounce around between business models thinking that the grass is greener on the other side. But what I realized and what most people tend to realize is that the grass is greener where you water it. And so if you're focusing on one business model, stick with it. And then I had a feeling that, okay, I want to try this e-com thing out. I was already in the e-com industry. I didn't go from selling houses to, running e-com stores. It was more of a logical link for me. And so the reasoning behind it was I looked at the business models. I looked at the successful examples of these business model owners. And I'm like, I want to have the e-com founder lifestyle. I want that kind of time freedom. I want even though the margins are thinner, I'm okay with that because it gives me the time and location freedom. With the agency, I was still doing some local stuff. It was required some in-person shoots. And so I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to leave the country. I want to go and explore the world. And so I knew that part of the decision was because I wanted to build a business that gave me the lifestyle that I wanted. And I think if you're looking at the kind of business you want to build, you start with the end. You start with the end in mind of what do I want to create for myself? And for me, I wanted a business that allowed me to go and say, you know what? I want to hop on a plane tomorrow. I want to go somewhere else. I want to spend some time, with family back home. I want to go elsewhere. And it would allow me to do that. That was a big consideration for me.
Guys, did you hear that? Start with the end in mind. Like that is like the key thing you should write on your forehead, which I'm listening to myself. Because the next question I had for you, Austin, was how do you know when the right time to jump is? Because you know my situation, which is earning decent income for what I think is decent with this existing model. Don't yet have the proof to go all the way in on the other model and thinking, when should I have enough proof to be able to make the decision? But you're saying, well, Marcus, audience, what is it that you want? And if the other model is going to bring you closer to what you want, don't worry about the proof. You've seen that it works in other industries. Like we said earlier, there is a privilege out there of understanding, seeing insights from other successful people. If that fits the end goal, just go for it and make it work. Sorry, that's all just clicked in my head. Because like in my head, Austin, like you know me, I'm doing one thing to fund another thing, but that's the reason the other thing isn't working as well as I want it to. I guess, do you have people come to you who you help say the same thing? Is that a common trend for business owners? You say shiny object syndrome, but what if the object they're looking at actually is greener and they're just not watering it? I've just figured out the answer to the question as I've asked it.
There you go.
The grass is greener where you water it. Guys, just do the thing.
Well, starting with the end is the single biggest hack that most people ignore. And look, I get it. When you buy a course, if I just think about what I teach now, where you're buying to learn about e-commerce and how to build a customer-first e-commerce brand. You're not buying for me to tell you about mindset. Yet, literally the second video in the program is let's create a vision board. And people are like, oh no, I don't need a vision board. What is this? I'm wasting my time here looking on Pinterest for images of what my dream life looks like. I'm like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're this ultra masculine, don't need a vision board guy. You're going to do it, all right? And I'm going to force you to do it because otherwise, what is all this for? Yeah. You need to know what you're doing this for. And that is the biggest hack because then, first of all, it's a motivation source because you know what you're doing it for. Also, you start to think about the end and no one does that for some reason. They're like, I want to be a millionaire. Why? I want to make 100K this year. Why? I want that car. I want that house. I want to live over here. Why? Just tell me why. And if they're like, oh, so I can spend more time with family. Amazing. Oh, so I can have a beautiful wife and partner and kids. Amazing.
What does that look like? Write it the out. Like find a way to tie yourself to it other than just thinking about it the one time Austin asked you.
Exactly. And so we create the vision board and then we put it, this is my top tip, little hack for you. You create the vision board and then on Google Chrome, if you're not using Google Chrome, what are you doing? Then you can change the background of every new tab you open. And I put my vision board there. So every time I open a new tab throughout the day, I'm seeing my vision board pop up every single time. Cements it in and it works. Look, you're going to say you're on the other side of this saying it doesn't work. Who's this guy telling me to make a vision board? Brother, sister, it works.
Guys, it works. Austin years ago gave me his vision board template. And one of the things he instructed me to do early on was to you know, you can fill it with all of your big aspirations, like places you want to go or people you really take inspiration from. You know, I remember when he showed me his, there were athletes on there. But one of the key things he said to me was, put things in the vision board that you know are about to happen. Even if it's 3 weeks away, like a trip that you've booked or a job that you've just won that you're about to fulfill on, or something that's coming up that you know for sure is happening. So you can start looking at that and tying yourself to that, right? And then the key was moving the vision board images to a separate section, which, can we get into that? The past self. Separate on that vision board is a collation of pictures of your past, key milestones, key achievements, memories that strike an emotion in you, and making the vision board alive rather than just something you stare at, so that when you achieve something on the vision board, you're physically grabbing the photo that you've seen and been looking at and moving it into the story so far, where you're not just taking inspiration from the vision board every day, but you're actioning the things that are on there, and you're also rewarding yourself for achieving the things that you've been looking at. And then suddenly also, you don't just have your future vision board, which ties you to the future, but you also have this really, really positive reminder of, hey, maybe I don't suck that much. Because, you know, up until I started using it again, I was like, so often, you know, this negative talk, like I'm not this by this, I should have done this, I could have done that. But then when I look at my story so far, I'm like, holy I'm an animal. Like I'm awesome. But it takes the same way you have to physically open Google Chrome tabs to look at your future. It's just as important to remind yourself what you've been through in the past. And my story so far, I actually use it more. I probably shouldn't use it more because you're looking too far into the past, but I do like seeing, you know what, Marcus, you actually have achieved a fair bit. Take some solace from that and use that as fuel for the vision board. What do you think of that?
I think the reason that is so powerful, and this is an extension of it, not to get too off track, but the idea that when you start, you have a voice in your head that says you can't do it, whether that came from parents, friends, anything. Maybe it was just someone in your life that said, you know what, you can't do it. That will always be there. And the way that you get rid of that is not by willing it out of existence. You can't just get rid of it. It doesn't disappear. What you have to do is you have to prove it wrong. You have to stack up an undeniable set of proof that you are who you say you are. And so the purpose of this extra section is saying, look, no, my voice in my head said I couldn't do it, but I did it. And so you slowly prove it wrong.
It takes the talk out. I've got that written on my wall in my room, and I look at it every morning when I wake up. You know, the stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. This is an Alex Hormozy thing. If you guys don't listen to him, listen to him. He's the godfather. It takes the guesswork out of it. It's like, you know, let's say your brain, and like you said, you're muting it. Your brain says, I'm not this. I'm not worthy of this. I haven't achieved this. I can't do this. You look at the proof and you're like, wait a second. Wait, it's right there. What are you saying? The proof is right there. And I guess the proof and gathering that proof takes work, which here comes a segue. Transition from agency land to econ land. Found success in that and built proof. Now I'm going to let the audience in on a story that I don't think you've ever told ever, which I think is going to shine you in the most positive light in relation to selling a course yourself. In 2019, Austin gave me a course that he made for self-improvement and better habits. It is something that never saw the light of day, something that he told nobody about, but something that has completely changed my life in the long run. This is something like this is why I see you as so valuable, because like little things you were fighting out as a kid have well and truly shaped the good behaviors that I have in my life. I remember saying, Austin, bro, you've given this to me. I'm happy to be a test case for you. This is f***ing amazing. Why are you not marketing it? And he said to me as a kid, he goes, Marcus, I don't have the proof that these work the way I say they need to work. Yes, I am quite successful for the age that I am, but until I'm at this painstakingly obvious amount of success that people can see, oh my God, 24-year-old making this much money. Until I am that, none of this is worth anything. But I was like, it is worth something, Austin. You've helped me. Like, this is real stuff. I trust you. You say, just wait. You put the thing to bed. You then disappeared for another year on Do Not Disturb, did the e-com shit, and then came back to us with the results, going back to the undeniable stack of proof. I hope this was a positive linking story. Can you tell us about what you do now and why? And why people should trust you? Because you've shown the stack of proof now. And you were thinking about that proof as a kid, bro. Like you didn't fall into proof. You said, I'm not showing this. You know what I mean? What do you do now? Why? How?
Well, first of all, I owe a lot to online education because, as we've heard on my journey so far, that is the single biggest thing that has allowed me to learn, to make money, to grow, to move overseas, to live the life I want to live. It was online courses, mentorship, support from people online that had done the thing. So I've always had this really soft spot for online education and courses in my heart. And so then when it came to a point where I looked at my life and I was building these e-com stores, doing really well, had the financial freedom to leave Australia, to then travel overseas, completely relocate out of my home country and be comfortable with it financially. I was like, this kind of freedom is so amazing. It allows me to do everything I've wanted to do. It gives me the freedom to focus on my health. And that's when I started getting in shape. It gives me the freedom to meet really cool people. And that's when I met some of my best mates and now business partners because of building an online business. And so then in early 2023, I met Will and Josh, my now two best mates and co-founders of Freedom Club. And what we did and the conversations that happened was, they came to me and said, look, we've all been on e-com. We all know how to build stores and we all have this freedom to travel the world. Why don't we teach people this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be a course guy. All right. There's, especially in e-com, not to name names or anything like that. There's some people that do some shady stuff. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be even in that industry. But then they're like, that's not us. That's not us. And that's not you either. How about we do it the right way? And then they kept talking. And I was like, okay. Now I can get behind
that.
This.
Adds up so much. Like the way that you had built something for yourself and then canned it knowing that you didn't want to be like those people. And then you've come back with the right intention.
I came back because I knew just because some people do it a certain way doesn't mean everyone has to. And I knew that there was so much capacity and openness in the market to actually help people the right way, to make a difference. Look, as cliche as it sounds, to actually do something for people. And I had enough proof at that point that I felt confident teaching people because I could start teaching them and they would grow and they'd get results. So at the beginning, I used my own social proof from 2.5, 3 years of building e-commerce stores to then start teaching. And that got us our first students who trusted me and they're like, okay, I believe in him because he's done it. And yeah, that gave us our first runs on the board. But now I don't even use my results anymore. It's student results. And so the whole reason I got into online education in the first place was because honestly, I was a bit sick and tired of all the people out there that were doing the wrong thing. I was inspired by the people that were doing a good job. And there were some people that were really good friends of mine, I still think to this day, where maybe I don't speak with that often, but they teach people and I'm like, you just do it the right way. I'm so glad that you're able to share your wisdom with people and help them out. And I respect them for that.
Austin, I know you and I've seen the inside, I've seen behind the curtain. I know what your intentions are. I know what you've built. I know you have the proof and I believe in you. But last night at dinner, for example, you mentioned that Australian customers are slightly different to the customers you've seen in other countries, right? And the way that they prefer to be marketed to, the information they choose and want and desire to have when being marketed to. What you just said just then about your intentions behind starting the course and choosing to teach people, I believe, because it's the truth. And I know that when you've shown me your goals documents and things like that, you're compelled and tied to excelling mankind. It's not just about your business goals. You want to push humans further. What do you say to the Australian market? And I'm sure you've already been through this, so there's probably examples you can give me. But to the naysayers who say, well, every course creator who creates a course is saying, well, I created a course because I wanted it to be done right. They're all saying that. They're all saying you should trust me. They're all saying we have proof. And that's the nature of selling a course. And one of the main feedbacks that so many of these people get is, if you were so good at doing the e-com, why is it that you're making your income why is it that you're making your income not e-com and instead choosing to teach people? What do you say to the people who are like, nah, you're a scam, straight up?
So you're probably right. First of all, I like to preface that I don't care if someone joins or not. I really am not in the business of trying to change people's mind. I was in a position when I was starting where I was open to the idea of doing something different. And I found people that taught those things. So I was open to it. When people come to me and they're like, oh, you're a scam, pyramid scheme, oh, this, that. And I'm like, all good, man. You don't have to join. There's no pressure. Like, it's okay.
Where do you think the visceral upsetness comes from? They're probably just upset a young dude's doing well. Like,
look, it could be, I don't know. I don't know them. I'd like to think I have some degree of empathy to, see where they're at and what's going on. And quite a few of the times they've had negative experiences with other people that sell information online and they've been hard done by. They actually have been scammed or stitched up. And I'm like, fair enough. I don't want people coming to me, trusting me blindly. I want you to come to me skeptical and I prove you wrong.
Correct.
I like that.
Correct.
And so what I say to the people now is we actually give away a program for free on the front end. And I say, look, you can be so skeptical, you can hate my guts, all right? But just go through the free thing.
And if it helps you, that's all the proof I need.
That's all I need.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've obviously found some pretty decent success, and I know for a fact that you still actually are a practitioner who practices the skill he's teaching, right? What are you working towards now?
The imminent future is just continuing to grow the community, staying very focused on one thing. I've bounced around a lot in the past, multiple businesses, multiple things at the same time. And I really like just focusing on one thing. So for me, I just wake up every day and I'm trying to improve the quality of our community, just make it so amazing and even better with feedback, just so that people get more out of it. That's my sole goal. And then, of course, introduce it to more people, present it to more people.
Business aside, though, I mean more so Austin. Are there places you want to travel? Is there anything that you're seeing? You don't have to divulge your whole vision board, but like something that's really pulling you forward right now, something that makes you hungrier than ever? Because I know it's not just money for you. You've always had a big philanthropy background. Is it something to do with that? Like what's got your spark going now, despite the fire going for so long?
We still do philanthropy at the company and we support a lot of education projects. There's 12 different ones around the world. We've helped fund 4 schools in rural Nepalese communities, donated meals and toys to orphanages in India and in South Africa. But all that stuff, it doesn't motivate me as much right now. And I know a lot of people will say, I'm motivated by making a difference in the world. For me right now, I look at it in tiers. You start by saving yourself, then you save the people around you, then you save your community, and then you save the world. Or impact the world.
Elon Musk.
Well, you got to go in those tiers. And so I think if anybody is just starting out, look, it's great to have these beautiful motivations to want to change the world, impact lives, all that, but you got to take care of yourself first. Yep. Otherwise you can't show up for everyone else. Yep. So my motivations when I was just starting was I got to save myself. I need to have enough money where I have the freedom to think and the freedom to do what I want to do. The next step was the people around me. And I'm still focusing on that. I want to retire my mum very soon. My dad, I literally just chatted with him about this before. He won't let me, right? If I try, he's like, no. So yeah, then I just want to, take such good care of everyone in my life, people around me, extended friends, and just make sure that they have all the blessings that I've been blessed with. Because for all of this, I attribute it all to God. And so I would not want to not share all this beauty and abundance with all these other people. Mm-hmm. After that, it's the community. And look, in the process of building Freedom Club and teaching people and educating and giving away things for free.
It happens by default.
It's happened and it will continue to happen. So then it's just an extension of that. But yeah, I'd be lying if it wasn't. So I really want to improve the lives of my family. I really want to, the students that trust me, I want to give them everything. I want to pour out everything I've learned, because now it's kind of cool when I see them achieving freedom and they post their results in the community and I see all the things that they're able to do. And what doesn't hit me is the young guy that gets really good results and he's like, now I'm able to travel and all that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But I love seeing it when they say I can spend more time with my family or I can stop that job that I've been working for 25, 30 years and my heart wasn't in it. I'm like, that hits me. That's why I'm here to do this.
So to those listening who are in the early stages of their journey, I think that first step one that Austin's just mentioned is probably the most valuable one, which is you can't save shit until you save yourself. We're all at different stages and versions of that, depending on what it is that you actually want. So start from the goal and work backwards, like Austin said. But yeah, I think that's the biggest point you made there, which is you can be tied to a wider, more macro goal, but the micro decisions have to be based on saving yourself first. So do whatever's required.
My first ever vision boards, I think, were a bit too far into the future. They were a bit too grand. And when I looked at them daily, it didn't give me the same sense of real motivation because it was too far away. And so I ended up creating these vision boards that were literally a vision for the next 6 months, 12 months. And then I would adjust them. A vision board doesn't stay. You change it, in my opinion. It constantly changes. I'm up to vision board like 11 or 12 right now. And so at the start, it was too broad. And I was like, save the world, do this, do that, all these plans I have for the future. But what really motivated me when it was like, I put my family on there. And when I just want to live in Bali or I just want to move overseas. And it was a lot closer in a timeline. And so I think for anyone, look, there is time. and there is an opportunity to serve the world, serve the community, do incredible things for other people. But at the start, just take care of yourself. And it's not selfish to do that. And I think we kind of demonize it a little bit. The idea that you're focusing on yourself, you're not going to that party because you just want to get better yourself. You're not, you're saying no to that social occasion because you just want to work. That's okay. And I feel like we've both copped a lot of flack for saying no to these things in the past. But what you realize is that it's okay, because in the end, they're going to be like, wow, I was your number one fan. Like, I knew you had it when you were doing it. But at the time, they were paying you
Austin,
out.
I was paying you out as a teenager. You converted me within seconds. Like, as soon as I really saw who you were, I 100% agree. Guys, regardless of where the starting point is, what Austin has said there, go and rewind, play it back 3 times. The key is the starting point, but at the end of the day, going back to the theme of the podcast, no rep is ever wasted. So regardless of where you decide starting point is, everything you have is everything you need right now to start taking the next steps to making your life better. Austin, you're a G. If people want to watch more of you or find more of you, where should they find you? What should they know about? Just
type Austin Lovell on YouTube. I make vlogs weekly, share the behind the scenes, the kind of raw stuff that I think Instagram's looks pretty and beautiful and aesthetic, but YouTube's the real stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I just document, I share what I'm learning. Look, if I pitch anything, it's free on there as well. So you can either follow me on Instagram or check me out on YouTube, and I just share what I'm learning.
Austin Lovell, everyone. Our filmer is in the background. I was hoping I'd get the second set of hands. Can we get a second set of it? Sorry, he was filming. Austin Lovell, everyone.
Thank you.
There we go. Good work, Austin. That was fun.
Thanks, man.